What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Lions Latest, going through the latest Detroit Lions news. And today, we've got some big news to discuss this morning. The Detroit Lions went out, added a player at a position that was very thin after the initial roster cuts, and we're going to break down that player, but then also made a trade. So let's get right into it. So let's start with the trade first, and this is wide receiver Tim Patrick being sent to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 2026 sixth-round pick, which is fantastic from a draft capital perspective because the Lions had lost their sixth-round pick due to trading for Zadarius Smith last year. So it does fill in really nicely for the Lions. Remember, they also traded away both of their third-round picks in this year's upcoming draft to go get the receiver that's now essentially replacing Tim Patrick and Isaac Tesla. So this all kind of works out. But to stay here for a second, this puts the Lions now at 5 receivers on the roster. It also dropped them to 49, but we add another player, so we'll talk about that. So they stay at the same spot, still have 3 spots open, but this was a move that if you were going to sell on Tim Patrick at any time, this was probably the only time. Honestly, you may have been able to make a trade for Tim Patrick, but this was clearly the highest point that you could sell at for Tim Patrick. Outside of like week 1 or 2, he performs really well, and then you move off him at the beginning of the season. But this is about the peak of what you were going to seemingly get for Tim Patrick because he's coming off a very strong last season due to his age. He also had a very injury-riddled past, multiple years on top of each other, going back to being with John Morton in Denver, revived his career with the Detroit Lions, filling in for us, staying healthy after the cut downs this past season, and he was great for us. He made an immediate connection with Jared Goff. He was fantastic off script. I never thought he was the best separator at the top of the route. He made some acrobatic grabs on the sideline, brought some field stretching abilities. He flashed that specifically there, but he fit in so well. However, considering his age, some of the injuries in the past, this felt like the best time to move on Tim Patrick if you were going to get something for him, because seemingly the Lions have made it clear Isaac Tesla is going to be taking over that role. And that is also very understandable. We knew we took Tesla. This was clearly where this was going, but it was how soon is it going to get there? And while I thought it was going to be a little bit of a slower process initially going through this draft pick, Isaac Tesla, I think, exceeded all of that throughout the preseason, showed the consistency in the hands. And while Tesla's going to have his own things to work out, specifically getting off the ball consistently there, some of the footwork and the craftiness off the line of scrimmage, those issues, Tim Patrick had some issues too in terms of separation. Tesla excelled in the areas that you would have expected him to coming out of Arkansas, which is he has some of the best hands in college football. He has the vertical threat ability, probably to another level than Tim Patrick at this point in time. He has excellent sideline awareness, footwork on the sideline. He's great when the play is broken down, which I think is the one element that he is going to carry very similarly to a guy like Tim Patrick to add that element back to the team. He has that as well. He did the same thing at Arkansas, has done it for the Lions here so far in the preseason. We've seen it in training camp as well. We need to wait. Plus, we can get a draft pick for Tim Patrick, which if we do wait, we're probably not getting anything for this guy at any point. And also, Tim Patrick kind of had an up and down training camp because he wasn't consistently on the field. The one day that I was there against Houston Texans, he had 2 drops, 2 pretty wide open drops. He also made some nice grabs over the middle. Again, I would have felt comfortable coming in with Tim. It wasn't like, oh man, we got to get off this guy. But it was, hey, Isaac Tesla is fantastic. This guy's going to play. It's going to be hard to keep him off the field, and we're going to go that direction right now. Also, the element of 6 receivers. That 6 receivers probably not going to play very much at all. Not much at all. 5 receivers, that 5th receiver may not play much at all that season. Of course, injuries can pop up. They can slide in. But the 6th receiver, man, they got a long way to go before getting on the field. Now, typically, my concern with a move like this would more so be about how expansive can we have Isaac Tesla be as a rookie in terms of the route tree that we ask of him, fitting into the offense. A guy like Tim Patrick coming into another year, you may be more open to what kind of routes you can actually ask him to run and how well he's going to fit within the timing of the offense. But with how late we scooped up Tim Patrick last year and how fast he was able to make an immediate impact, and seemingly how his route tree was stuck with dig routes or little drags underneath where he could settle into his zone or a vertical push over top, those kind of things, especially with a full training camp, it almost seems more so like the Lions are comfortable that Isaac Tesla can at very least pick up that, just like Tim Patrick was able to pick up for us last year. Well, now Dominic Lovett becomes the 5th receiver, I guess we can assume, and there's a chance that maybe he does get some snaps on offense this season. And keep an eye on the practice squad, because for the Lions, guys like Jackson Meeks, if they're able to get him back, or potentially Ronnie Bell, he's the guy that I'm keeping an eye on. Yeah, Ronnie Bell isn't the same. Jackson Meeks is a little bit more similar stylistically, but a couple of guys like that even could be elevated and activated over a guy like Dominic Lovett during the regular season is something to keep an eye on. But again, going back to before the draft, Brad Holmes told us they wanted to get younger at receiver. And if that is the case, Well, you can't cut those guys, number one. And in this case, the Lions didn't. Lions kept both those guys around, and they both translated really well in the sense that they both look like exactly what you would have hoped for coming out of college. And now they have officially moved off of the older player to get something in return. Again, this is going to have to be the Lions process going forward. I know it's not a massive trade on the surface, but it helped us get Za'Darius Smith last season, and that was pretty big. Raised the value for Patrick. But in credit to Patrick, Patrick did a lot of that by himself. Patrick was awesome this past year. So I'm wishing the best for Tim Patrick as a Jacksonville Jaguar. I hate that we're going to lose him because, man, I love me some Tim Patrick. But at the same time, what an excellent season he had with us. And this does make sense from Brad Holmes' perspective. And it's officially Isaac Tesla time, I guess we can say. Now, the other news is that the Lions went out and added a safety, which was a need. The Lions had 3 safeties, not including Avonte Maddox. Now they have 4. And this is going back to the well in Jacksonville. Daniel Thomas. Safeties at Jacksonville. Jacksonville has some DBs now. And this year they cut him, not because he didn't play well in the preseason. He only played a couple of games, but because they were so deep at safety. They drafted Caleb Ransall out of Tulane, Wingard and Savage and Antonio Johnson as returning players, as well as also adding Eric Murray, the veteran. We're pretty loaded at safety just from a depth perspective, playing specifically like in the early second half this year in the preseason. But when he did play, he was outstanding. And this is the kind of move you could all come to expect from Brad Holmes, that if he's going to go light at a position, it's because he wants to get better. He wants to upgrade. He upgraded in the safety room. He got a very reliable piece that fits the scheme exactly what they're looking for, and he gives special teams value to the team. Over the last 4 years, he's played at least 200 snaps on special teams. His skill set translates well to being a fantastic tackler, being able to sift through traffic, having the body type to deal with blocks at the point of attack. You think about the new kickoff and the new kick return, how you're within 10 yards of each other. There's going to be a lot more of that hand-to-hand combat, a lot more of that one-on-one situation. That's something that he's seemingly going to thrive in, plays with the toughness for it, but then also schematically as a safety, he fits incredibly well as well for what the Lions typically look for at those spots. A stocky, well-built frame. He's not the tallest or the lengthiest safety, which I think can limit him a little bit at the catch point. I think we've seen that. We also, to me, I haven't seen a premier athlete, someone with like elite closing burst at the catch point. I haven't seen that. So he seemingly will give up some receptions, but he can contest passes at the catch point. But as a run defender, you put him in the box, his ability to sift through traffic, to navigate, to play with a lot of patience, and then have that kind of build where he is super stout, very wide, form tackling in the box or outside in space as well, breaking down, rarely oversetting or taking bad decisions in the open space, just being a reliable piece in space, being able to recognize the difference, and then playing with the quickness inside the box or playing with the quickness to jump gaps on tight end, specifically in the box as well. He played in the defense with Jacksonville, then in the preseason ran a lot of single high safety, cover 1, cover 3. He played both as a sky safety, playing underneath, a deep third safety as well. He filled into both of those roles pretty well. And for me, what showed off was the proactiveness. This is something I thought Mo Norris always did well for us, is that he didn't have to be the best athlete, but he played very proactive as a deep safety specifically. And this is where I think Daniel Thomas showed up in this year's preseason. Very proactive with his hips, really early route recognition, read the quarterback's eyes well, played really well with the flow of the play specifically, and typically put himself in a spot where even if he wasn't going to cut off a route, he was going to stay on top of the route, be the deepest man, and be the last line of defense for you. I don't know how much exact playmaking you're going to get there at the catch point, but again, there's going to be a lot of examples, say in quarters coverage, where he's going to step down, pick up a route, and take it away, or stay on top as that single high safety. But then you can put him underneath as well. And I think this is where he started to separate himself, because this is where you saw the true flexibility. He plays top down with really good balance. Again, the twitch, the burst, I thought those were closer to adequate for me, but ultimately he plays a lot faster because he's so balanced. There's not a lot of false footwork at the top of the route when working top down, working as an underneath defender, or working in man coverage when picking up tight ends. There's not a lot of false movement. He sticks in hips really well. So his transitions are very smooth. They're very seamless. And the single high safety, or as a high safety, it felt like, okay, this could be a little bit slower, kind of that processing speed to plant and drive and get downhill. He played as a very smart safety as well. He sorted through traffic with a lot of success, played in the red zone very consistently, worked through quarter situations, some of that closing burst that he had, maybe the length at the catch point, some of the true looseness. He didn't feel overly fluid within some of the footwork when trying to retreat and redirect, but he played very balanced, right? But some of the looseness felt like maybe it was a touch limited, but ultimately this is an upgrade. The Lions seemingly, and Brad Holmes recognized he wanted to try to get better at this spot. I still think they're going to have potential guys coming back either to the practice squad or maybe even the 53 that they had on their team in the preseason. Eric Hallett was good for us, and Eric Hallett came from the exact same spot. So they know what they're doing with depth safeties over there. It makes sense to go right back to that. And from just a schematic side of things, it also makes sense why the Lions would have liked Eric Hallett's fit, and now they also would have liked Daniel Thomas's fit as well. It just makes sense to go get him from the same kind of idea of how they're doing things defensively. So Daniel Thomas, welcome to the squad. Now, the other side note that I want to throw out here before we get out of here is the Lions still having 3 open roster spots. We'll see how they fill those out again. I think they're going to be looking to upgrade in multiple spots. We've talked about Za'Darius, and I think ultimately they are going to sign Za'Darius, and he's going to be back with the Lions, and that could be one of those spots. But as me and Everything King were talking yesterday, by the way, Lions Roundtable, it's official. It's officially official now. Our first episode is yesterday. We'll be back tomorrow, so check out that channel. It is up. Check it out. You can check out the replay. We also talked about DeMarcus Walker a little bit as well. Some of the Lions way back had a visit with DeMarcus Walker still being out there as a free agent. That's another player the Lions could look to go after potentially. I think that's very much so on the table depending on the asking price, and that could put the Lions at 5 edge defenders. They would still have a roster spot open at that point after trading away Tim Patrick and kind of balancing out where all the roster is filled out for. So those are definitely 2 guys I'm keeping my eye on, but safety was probably by far the biggest need after the 53-man cut in terms of, hey, we got to add some depth here, and it seems very clear the Lions are like, yeah, we want to get better, and I think they did. So with that being said, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'm out.